Hello, hello, together we rise advocates and to our fellow girls and titas. I am Cadet Girl Scout Shara Patria G. Pascual from Cabanatuan City Council of Central Luzon.
And I am Senior Girl Scout Princess I. Gabriel from Bulacan Council of Central Luzon Region. And we will be your hosts for today.
Once again, good afternoon, ladies, and to everyone who is with us in the Zoom and to those who are watching via FB Live on our official Facebook account.
Also, we encourage you to like our official Facebook page of the Girl Scouts of the Philippines and the Together We Rise Facebook page.
To start our program, let us begin with the Girl Scout prayer, a time for healing and sharing, to be led by Senior Girl Scout Maria Antoinette E. Garcia of San Pablo Council, Southern Luzon Region.
To be followed by the rededication of Girl Scouts Promise and Law, to be led by Cadet Girl Scout Frances Tiffany Panelo of Abra Council, Northern Luzon Region.
Let's bow our head and feel the presence of our Lord. Dear God, we call you in truth. Hear our cry for help, and lift the fallen and burdened among us. Turn our fear into courage, and replace our helplessness with hope. God of compassion and kindness, grant us your promise of comfort and relief, and guide us to share our resources with those who are in dire need of help. Knit us together as one GSP family, considerate and caring, serving you and our country at all times. On your honor, see us through this crisis, and turn today into a time for caring and healing. Amen.
Rededication to the Girl Scout Promise and Law in unison. On my honor, I will do my duty to God and my country, to help other people at all times and to live by the Girl Scout law. A Girl Scout honor is to be trusted. A Girl Scout is loyal. A Girl Scout is helpful. A Girl Scout is a friend to all and a sister to every other Girl Scout. A Girl Scout is courteous. A Girl Scout respects living things. A Girl Scout is disciplined. A Girl Scout is self-reliant. A Girl Scout is thrifty. A Girl Scout is clean in thought, word, and deed.
Now, let us hear the opening remarks from our very own GSP National President, Mrs. Susan R. Locsin.
Good afternoon, everyone, my dear Girl Scouts. First, I would like to congratulate our team that had prepared this whole program, headed by none other than Dorothy Rosario and the rest of the 30 or more girls to the 6 regions of the Girl Scouts of the Philippines. I'd like to say thank you for being part of the Together We Rise campaign, which is the first social media girl-led campaign that aims to amplify awareness of women against violence against women and girls. As Girl Scouts, it is our duty to empower, support, and uplift each other. I hope that these 18 days when doing the activity of NVO have made you remember that you have a voice to share what's on your mind and in your heart. I would like you to ask one another, are you okay? Just to ask one another this question, a very simple question, but really a question that means a lot. We shouldn't be ashamed to say we are not okay. It's okay not to be okay. I encourage you to support, to speak up and inspire others, to say how they feel. We are here to support you. If there is something in your mind, even if they be difficult to talk about, tell us. My ask is that you reach out to your mentors, troop leaders, friends, and family, and always know that you have someone to lean on. This topic this afternoon is timely, it is relevant, and very necessary for this afternoon's activity. I leave you with these 3 words. Speak your truth. Have a very pleasant afternoon, everyone.
Thank you so much for the very heartwarming message, Tita Susan. Today, we welcome you to the EmpowerTalk. Stand up, speak out. November Voice Out #CountMeIn. This is the first ever 18-day campaign of the Girl Scouts of the Philippines, and Together We Rise, in line with the celebration of the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women.
The campaign is a build-up story of the 18-day campaign of girls endeavoring to introduce the campaign and its aim to end VAWG, educate girls with VAWG and its effect on millions of girls and women worldwide, show how they can take part in fighting VAWG, encourage girls to join us not just in the 18-day campaign, but also our organization's future efforts in eradicating VAWG. And last, this is to empower and inspire the girls to commit to championing a VAWG-free world.
Let us now proceed to our main event and help me welcome our panel discussants for today's webinar.
Our first panel discussant is the WAG's Together We Rise Philippines Campaign Manager, co-chair of the board of IMCAAN, one of the United Kingdom's largest Black feminist umbrella organizations, and has been working on international rights, focusing on violence against women and for girls for 18 years. Let us warmly welcome Ms. Ann Barras.
Our second panelist is Ms. Pauline de Guzman. She is the Plan International Philippines Campaign and Advocacy Specialist. She graduated as cum laude, as Bachelor of Arts degree in Social Science, Social Anthropology in University of the Philippines, Baguio in 2012.
But before we proceed, our comment section is now open for your questions. Kindly include your council, region, and the name of the discussant that you want to answer together with your question. The format of the question is provided in the comment section down below. To formally begin our discussion, we have prepared 2 questions to be answered by our panelists.
For our first question, what are your organization's programs in line with eradicating violence against women and girls?
And the last question is, what are the success stories of your organization's current programs on achieving a VAWG-free community? We will start the discussion with our first panelist, Ms. Ann Barras.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for inviting us to come along and speak with you all today. Particularly thank you to all Girl Guides Philippines for the warm welcome you've given us, and in particular to all the Together We Rise advocates who've put together everything and done an amazing amount of work over this last year in difficult circumstances. Next slide, please. I'd like to introduce you all to our team that we have at WAGs working on Stop the Violence. As you can see, we have a number of program managers in different countries around the world, including Uganda, Jordan, Argentina, and of course, our very own Psyche in Philippines. Next slide, please. So WAG's mission, as many of you may know, is to enable girls and young women to develop to their fullest potential as responsible citizens of the world. Our vision is one of seeing all girls and young women as valued and to take action to change the world. Next slide, please. So this is what we do with our Stop the Violence program. Stop the Violence is the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts global campaign to end violence against women and girls. This campaign works towards a world where girls and women live free of violence and threat, where they are informed and empowered to claim their rights, a world where these rights are recognized by everyone. Young women take the lead in changing the global conversation on gender-based violence and act as advocates, leaders, and agents of change in their communities. The campaigns reach out across the world, empowering and educating girls and young women to understand their rights, giving them the skills to claim them. Why do we do this? Because girls have told us this is important. The issue of violence against girls has been highlighted by girls and young women to us as the issue they wanted to take action on, because education is key. Education is key in addressing violence against girls, By empowering girls and young women to take the lead and asserting their rights, you create a powerful force for transformation. By changing gender stereotypes and reaching boys and young men through non-formal education, you challenge the root and causes of violence. Because girls are the solution. This campaign is not about adults or men stopping violence against girls on behalf of girls. It's about empowering girls and young women to be the drivers of change. They're recognizing that it is never a girl's responsibility to end violence she faces. Instead, it is saying girls are more than just victims. They are agents of change. They are instigators of their own futures and leaders of change within their communities. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So what is the Stop the Violence campaign? Launched in 2011, the campaign is working towards the prevention and elimination of violence against girls and women through education, awareness raising, lobbying, policy and research, and community action. Next slide, please. In 2013, in partnership with UN Women and 20 WAGs member organizations, WAGs developed the Voices Against Violence curriculum, a co-educational curriculum that can be used with both girls and boys aged between the ages of 5 and 25. Through age-appropriate, non-formal education activities such as role play, discussions, games, participants are supported to explore the root causes of violence against women and girls and challenge harmful gender stereotypes and social norms. Through participation in the program, children and young people are equipped with the knowledge, confidence, and skills to be agents of change in their communities. As the final stage of the process, participants develop locally relevant community mobilization and advocacy efforts to engage their wider community in taking action against violence against women and girls. Next slide, please. The curriculum was from an input of 20 pilot member organizations and 2 WAGs Worldwide Centers. It has been developed for worldwide use and can be delivered to girl-only or co-educational groups from the ages of 5 to 25. It addresses different styles of learning in line with Girl Guides and Girl Scout methodology. A key distinguishing feature of this education program is that it aims to prevent violence before it starts. By working with children when they are still young, before social norms are too firmly entrenched, the program aims to instill healthier attitudes towards gender and stereotypes. It creates safe and supportive sessions for young people to learn about their rights and to discuss and challenge violence against women and girls. The curriculum is designed for participants who are at an important stage of their life cycle, when they are forming their own friendships and relationships, when they are considering what it means to be themselves, when they are developing their own beliefs and attitudes and their own values about gender norms. Next slide, please. As part of this work, we also have the Advocacy Toolkit. The toolkit was created in 2019 by a young woman who was also a WAGs advocacy champion. It was launched in March 2019 and provides a step-by-step guide on girl-led advocacy, how to do advocacy and build capacity. Next slide, please. So on this map, you'll see that currently the Stop the Violence campaign has now reached 70 countries around the world who are working on different aspects of the campaign. 40 countries are rolling out the educational component of the campaign. 10,000 youth leaders have been trained and more than 80,000 young people have completed the Voices curriculum. Next slide, please. So in terms of what the campaign aims to do is looking at national advocacy trainings and national campaigns. Next slide, please. So on the question of successes of our campaigns, just a few examples to share. In August, the Malaysian Girl Guides Association launched a campaign calling for an end to child marriage in Malaysia, following a shocking high-profile case of an 11-year-old girl who was forced to marry a 41-year-old man. To support the development and implementation of the No Bride Under 18 campaign, and in response to Malaysia, WAGs delivered an advocacy training to young women and the leadership of the Malaysian Girl Guides Association in October 2018. The training centered on taking action to influence decision makers to close a loophole in the law that enabled child marriage, and action to tackle root causes of child marriage through changing harmful beliefs, norms, and attitudes. Malaysian Girl Guides Association then partnered with UNICEF to deliver their campaign and move forward. Next slide, please. During this process, the Chief Commissioner pledged to support the campaign and that to close the loopholes in the law that allowed girls under 18 to be married. For the first time, they lobbied the Ministry of Education for inclusion of children's rights in the national curriculum. Gender-based violence, including child marriage, is a sensitive topic in many countries. That is why it was important for the campaign on these issues to be driven and led by national organisations in response to the needs identified by the members. Our global Stop the Violence campaign provides an overarching framework for ending violence in all its forms, but our tailored support to member organisations helps to make sure that the national campaign is needs-based and girl-led. Next slide, please. The outcomes of the campaign so far have been included, due to this work, the team has been approached by the National Council of Women's Organisations in Malaysia, an umbrella organisation that supports women's organisations and youth leaders, to present recommendations to the Minister of Youth and Sports during meetings. They acknowledged that even though members for years have never changed or consulted with Girl Guides Malaysia for anything to do with girls and young women, their initiative has brought the voice of girls and young women to the forefront. The International Commissioner was invited to speak on a panel of End Marriage event with UNICEF and the Deputy Prime Minister. They had a poster making session with a famous street artist and filmmaker. The space provided for the Malaysian Girl Guides to exhibit their programs. They developed partnerships and gained media coverage, and increased interest in becoming a member of the Girl Guides of Malaysia. Next slide, please. On the 13th of November, members of Girl Guides Malaysia protested outside Parliament with other NGOs to call for an end to child marriage. Next slide, please. They handed their statement, petition and posters over to the Deputy Minister for Women, Family and Community Development. Next slide, please. They received widespread media coverage across the Asia-Pacific region. Next slide, please. The impact of their programme has been far-reaching. The day after the protest and handing over the petition of statement to Minister for Women and Family and Community Development released a statement that next year amendments will be made to the specific laws that allow child marriage to continue in an effort to close the legal loophole. The Education Minister also announced that he intends to introduce civic education into the school curriculum, which will include education on human rights. The Deputy Minister for Youth and Sport also committed to participating in this takeover next year by allowing Girl Guides to take over his portfolio, and will also get the Deputy Ministers for Education and Women, Family and Community and Development to do the same. Since the launch of the campaign, 4 states in Malaysia have outlawed child marriage, and more are preparing to follow. Next slide, please. In Malta, the Girl Guides there have been lobbying and carrying out community actions. Following the arrival of many refugees, the Girl Guides realised that many had been through female genital mutilation. This was a new issue in Malta, and to protect girls from experiencing this practice, they trained doctors, teachers, police, and others on the issue. They then lobbied the government for a law to make the practice of FGM illegal in Malta. They were successful and have been re-recognised by the government for their action in bringing about such an important law. Next slide, please. In Chile, more than 100 girls and boys from the Association of Guides and Scouts in Chile assembled on the colourful, busy street in Santiago to call for effective powers to end the widespread problem of sexual harassment and street harassment. The 2-hour event rounded off activities for the annual 16 Days of Activism, which had the theme of Our Streets Too, and was also part of the association works for VAWG Stop the Violence campaign. Next slide, please. Nigeria as another example where Girl Guides and Scouts have been doing community action and awareness raising around the domestication of the child sexual abuse law. Next slide, please. Globally, we also have the Stop the Violence facilitators. We have 22 global Stop the Violence facilitators who support VAWG's development of the Stop the Violence campaign and Voices Against Violence curriculum. They support member organizations in their regions to work on Stop the Violence campaigns through training, guidance, and collaboration. Next slide, please. So in 2017, one of the activities we did for 16 Days of Activism against gender-based violence was a global campaign calling for an end to violence against women and girls. It takes place every year and begins on the 25th of November, the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women. And each year, VAWGs and the Stop the Violence campaign invites the movement to join an awareness-raising campaign on a certain thematic area. This year, we have chosen the theme of victim blaming, standing in solidarity with all girls and women who've been made to feel like they are responsible for violence inflicted on them. In 2017, we created the campaign Girls Are Unsafe, and where we invited girls around the world to draw pictures showing us the places and spaces they felt most unsafe. In over 400 drawings and 7,000 responses to our U-Report poll, they told us the streets are the most unsafe place to be a girl. Next slide, please. So there's examples of some of the drawings we received. Next slide, please. In 2017, we partnered with UN Women for our 16 Days campaign in order to reach a wider audience and network of UN Women. So Pomzila, who's the Executive Director of UN Women in 2019, she quoted as saying, while closed doors still hide some forms of violence, young women are increasingly protecting against being attacked in public places in full sight of passers-by or other passengers on public transport. I congratulate the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts on their campaign to build a global demand for the end of this and all forms of gender-based violence. Next slide, please. So we have another example here of our 16 Days campaigns. Next slide, please. So last year, our campaign focused on Our Streets Too, and I'm Here for Her, where we showed solidarity for others who are experiencing violence or feel unsafe in public spaces. Next slide, please. And you can see further examples of that. This year, as I mentioned, our campaign focuses on victim blaming. In the last 12 months, the outbreak of COVID-19 has had a devastating consequence for women and girls. As the world has battled a health pandemic, the existing pandemic of violence against women and girls has intensified. Millions of women and girls have been trapped at home with those that abuse them. Thousands of girls have been trafficked or forced into child marriage or child labour or undergone harmful cultural practices. There's been a sharp increase in femicide globally. Among our own members, we know that Girl Guides have been forced into marriage, child labour, sexually assaulted, and even murdered. We want to work to dismantle the culture of shame and blame that means that those who are abused often remain silent about their experience and support a movement that stands for victims and speaking out and seeking justice. Next slide, please. This year, we've been asking our members to take the pledge to address victim blaming. And here's an example of some of the pledges we've received from South Africa, from India, from Uganda. And we've had chief commissioners in Malaysia and Benin taking their pledges. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So part of our Stop the Violence programme has included the campaign of Together We Rise. Together We Rise is a girl-led advocacy campaign which focuses on 3 key countries: Philippines, Argentina, and South Africa. Next slide, please. Here you'll see examples of some of the trainings that took place earlier this year before lockdown in the Philippines, and some work we've previously done in Argentina. Next slide, please. And South Africa, where work is currently just beginning on Together We Rise. Next slide, please. So in Together We Rise Philippines, we saw 6 regions take part and create 6 national campaigns. The Together We Rise advocates were trained together in Manila end of January this year. During that 4-day training, girls came together and took part in learning about the Voices curriculum, as well as how to use the advocacy toolkit and create their own strategic campaigns. Together We Rise Philippines so far has operated in 6 regions across the Philippines and has created 6 national campaigns. The campaigns focus on street harassment, addressing demand for prostitution and trafficking, redefining the Filipina, incest, sexual harassment, and consent and healthy relationships. Next slide, please. Together We Rise Philippines was launched on International Women's Day, where we are proud to say that 2,790 Girl Scouts and leaders took part in 75 cities across the Philippines. Together We Rise advocates have represented GSP and the program in 2 girl-led global WAGs panels and joined UN Women Generation Equality to help build their program work. Together We Rise advocates have trained over 200 GSP scouts and leaders about the Stop the Violence program and their particular campaigns. So as campaign manager for Together We Rise globally, I just want to say that I'm extremely proud of all the hard work that the Together We Rise advocates have put into this program in the Philippines under very difficult circumstances. At the beginning of this year, we did not know that this would happen globally and that our lives would change so drastically. But the Together We Rise campaign advocates didn't let this faze them. They created a magnificent online campaign, which we are so, so proud of. And I'd like to congratulate each and every one of them. Thank you so much for your time today and for giving us the opportunity and platform to speak to you all.
Thank you so much, Ms. Amberas, for sharing your programs and success stories in line with eradicating VAWG. Now let us hear the programs and success stories from Ms. Pauline de Guzman.
Hey, good afternoon to everyone. We're very thankful to Girl Scouts of the Philippines for inviting Plan International to speak in your event as part of the 18-day VAWG campaign. So Plan International is also part of this national and international campaigning to end violence in all its forms. So before I go to the Girls Get Equal campaign, I would like to introduce first what Plan International is. Next slide, please. So Plan International, we are a humanitarian and development organization. We focus on child-centered development, and we've been working in the Philippines since 1961. We are independent with no religious, political, nor government affiliation, but we partner with different government agencies, with different faith-based organizations, civil society organizations to achieve our goal, which is next slide. So we are fighting for children's rights and girls' rights. We want to adjust a world that focuses on this and to achieve equality for all girls and young women. So why are we doing this? Next slide. Oh yeah, before that, Plan International is, as I mentioned, an international organization. We are present in 72 countries. We are implementing various programs and projects in these countries. And one of that is in the Philippines. So next slide. In the Philippines, we are present in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. We have program areas in Occidental Mindoro, in Samar, particularly Northern Samar, Eastern Samar, and West Samar. We are also present in Central Mindanao program areas. We are also implementing various projects in different areas in the Philippines, primarily in National Capital Region. So in Makati, Quezon City, Taguig, Nabotas, and Valenzuela. We are also present in Leyte and Cebu, and also in Mindanao areas. We are in Cagayan de Oro City, North Cotabato, in Sarangani, General Santos, and Maguindanao. So that's where our organization work. Next slide. And so as I've mentioned, Plan International have various programs. Right now, we are focusing on 4 key thematic areas. We call it thematic areas. The first one is on disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptation, peace building, and emergency preparedness and response. We also looked into our work on the area of youth economic empowerment, where we provide basic education, support our DepEd in providing alternative learning system. We also train girls and young women to thrive in the workspace. We provide technical and vocational education training for youth job security. We are also doing nutrition and responsive care. Specifically, that I would like to mention is our work on sexual and reproductive health and rights. So we've been partnering with different organizations, with different advocates, with different youth leaders to improve our SRHR in the Philippines. And then lastly is on child protection, where our work on gender, where we work a lot in terms of ending gender-based violence. So in our child protection, we have various projects. Among these are the Girls Advocacy Alliance Project. This is a national advocacy campaign to end commercial sexual exploitation and online sexual exploitation in the Philippines. So we are partnering with different organizations and government agencies on this project. We also have the Cyber Safe project. This is a project as well. We are implementing this in Quezon City, in Metro Manila, where we train communities and children and youth on how to eliminate and prevent online sexual exploitation. So we have trained a lot of advocates to help us in campaigning for making our online spaces safe for everyone. Next slide po. Ayan. So as I've mentioned, all our programs and influencing work about adopt a gender transformative approach that makes significant contribution to gender equality. So as an organization, we try to understand and address how gender norms influence children's lives. We also consider the diversity of girls, boys, young men, and women. We strengthen girls and young women's agency. This is very important for our organization. We are training a lot. We have a lot of projects, particularly Champions of Change and the Girls Get Equal campaign in helping girls and young women build their own agency and in raising their voices on issues that matter to them. So we also improve the social status and value of girls and young women in our society and work with boys and young men to embrace positive masculinity. So this is very important, especially when we are advocating for the eradication or end of gender-based violence. And lastly, we foster an enabling environment. So we help government agencies and the legislative bodies to create policies, to create systems, mechanisms, and institutions to achieve yung goal natin na gender equality. Next slide po. So yan. So I can skip this. We can go to the Girls Get Equal campaign. Sorry, move 3 slides pa. Ayan. Okay, I will just mention what we're doing in these program areas in the Girls Get Equal campaign. So, yeah. Yes, so we can stop here. So what I want to highlight in the work that Plan International is doing is on child protection. So I've already mentioned the capacity buildings and that we are doing with our partners and stakeholders. We are helping the communities improve referral pathways. So this is on reporting gender-based violences and cases of harassment in our communities. And we provide child protection community-based mechanisms focusing on commercial sexual exploitation and online sexual exploitation. We have a national project implementing the Champions of Change, where we actively engage girls and boys in gender equality and girls' rights, so including what I mentioned, the sexual and reproductive health and rights. And then finally, we have this national and actually global campaign, Girls Get Equal and Girls Out Loud. It's a platform for increasing girls and young women's power, voice, and leadership. Next slide, please. So I've already mentioned that we are partnering with different government institutions, children, youth. So this is very important in the campaign work that we are doing. Next slide. So yeah, about the campaign. So the Girls Get Equal campaign. This is the newest campaign of Plan International, but we've been implementing this since 2018. We launched it in 2018, where we conducted the first Philippine Girls Summit, where we invited different girls and young women to share with us their views and their insights on how we can achieve gender equality in the Philippines. So this is a youth-led campaigning, meaning the girls and young women themselves are the one designing the campaign, and we are doing this in partnership with different youth organizations. We are advancing for equal power, meaning we want girls and young women to achieve leadership position and power in our community, and to be recognized as someone who can lead their communities. We are also advancing equal freedom, where girls and young women can freely speak up. This equal freedom campaigning is also focuses on how we can provide safe space for girls and young women to thrive in their communities or in their society. And then the last one is on equal representation. It has 2 aspects. The first one is on equal representation in the media, wherein we are pushing our TV, movies, television to represent, to positively represent girls and young women, and to eradicate stereotyping in the media industry. We are also calling for equal representation, meaning in the decision-making platform. We want girls and young women to be represented and their voices are heard in various issues that affect their lives. So this is the Girls Get Equal campaign. Next slide. So why are we campaigning for gender equality, particularly the rights of girls and young women? So we recognize that gender inequality is experienced by girls in experienced by girls is different to the challenges faced by women and men, and requires specific attention and focus and intervention to meet their needs and realize their rights. So that's why we are very particular in really engaging girls and young women, because we want to understand how the society, the inequalities in society affect them, and how this inequality exacerbate violence against young women and girls. Next slide. So we also have a platform. We implemented this beginning July 2020. So this is a digital innovation project wherein we gathered various different girls and young women all over the Philippines. And the aim of the project is to create an online safe space where girls and young women can exchange insights, comments, and recommendations on issues and topics that are significant to them. So we are utilizing Facebook group and Messenger and an online dashboard to understand the conversation in the platform. So yung conversation dito all about gender inequality and issues that affect girls and young women, particularly gender-based violence. So during the 18-day VAWG campaign, our girls and young women in the platform were exchanging their insights and their recommendations on how we can solve GBV in our communities. Next slide. So this is the milestone of our Girls Get Equal campaign. As I mentioned, we launched it in 2018. And then the following year, we conducted the first national leadership training for girls and young women, wherein we trained these girls on how they can become leaders on gender equality. And then we established the Girls Get Equal core group. So right now we are at 150 girls and young women actively participating and advocating for gender equality. And then in 2019, we also launched the Equal Representation campaign of Plan International, wherein we focus on media stereotyping and how to positively portray girls and young women in the industry. In 2019 to 2020, we worked with the Philippine Commission on Women, with the Department of Interior and Local Government, and the Commission on Higher Education for the Safe Spaces Act. This is one of the milestones of the campaign because we provided support to the government through our Girls Get Equal campaign. We engage various communities and also girl leaders during the consultations for the implementation of the implementing rules and regulations of the Safe Spaces Act or the Bawal Bastos Law. And then we continued working with them in developing the localization guidelines for the implementation of this law. So I'm happy to let you know that the localization guidelines it was recently signed actually just 3 days ago with the Philippine Commission on Women and DILG. So the Safe Spaces Act is now fully ready for the implementation at the local level. And our organization has committed to continue working with communities and local government units in ensuring that every girls and young women are safe in all spaces, in school, at home, in the workplaces, in public spaces, and of course online. So, and then I mentioned already the Girls Out Loud. In 2020, we also launched the Equal Freedom Online, wherein we advance the right of girls and young women for a safe space online. So this is part of our International Day of the Girls celebration. Through this campaign, we were able to secure a partnership with the Department of Information and Communications Technology, the ICT. So this is the primary government agencies that looks into and implements various programs and projects for online safe spaces. So we will partner with them for in ensuring that our online spaces are safe, not just for girls and young women, but for everyone. And lastly, this October, we also launched the Through Her Lens. It's a research that was developed by girls and young women. The tool was developed by girls and young women themselves, wherein we analyze the impact of COVID-19 on Filipino girls and young women. And we also emphasize there in the research the violences that girls and young women are experiencing while they are on lockdown. And we are, in this research, we are calling on our government and civil society organizations to ensure that our girls and young women are safe during the lockdown period. So yeah, so that's it. That's our milestone for the Girls Get Equal campaign. Next slide, please. yeah, so I think that's the last. So thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you what Plan International has been doing for in fighting gender-based violence in all its forms. So magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
We are pleased to hear those stories and programs from you, Miss Pauline de Guzman.
I couldn't agree more, Princess. Seems like the girls are even more interested and excited now. But let us now hear the Girl Scout clap from our viewers. That was indeed a meaningful and insightful discussion. We are sure that you are all inspired by their answers. In this juncture, we will give this moment to our panelists for their message for us in ending VAWG. Let us start with Miss Pauline de Guzman, to be followed by Miss Anne Barras. Miss Pauline de Guzman, the floor is now yours.
Please unmute. Unmute.
I'm very sorry. I'm already speaking. So yeah. So my message to the girls and young women, first of all, alam natin or maraming kabataang babae ang totoong nakakaranas talaga ng mga karahasan sa bahay, sa school, and even in public spaces and now in online spaces. No, so nung nagkaroon ng COVID-19 pandemic, everyone is stuck at home. We are locked down at home, and this violence has been magnified by the situation. So, itong mga karahasan na to ay hindi kailanman kasalanan ng mga kababaihang na kakaranas nito o maging yung mga biktima. So, hindi lang naman din kababaihan ang nakakaranas ng mga iba't ibang karahasan. So, and bilang parte ng community natin, inaanyayahan ko kayong lahat na maging kabahagi ng advokasya upang mawakasan talaga natin yung gender-based violence in all spaces. Naniniwala kami sa Plan International na ang bawat batang babae ay may kakayahang tumulong at magbahagi ng solusyon upang wakasan yung mga karahasan na ito. We believe in your voices, the voices of girls and young women. These are very important and should be heard in our work to end all violence in all its forms. So participate in various advocacy and campaign work. Make your voices heard by everyone. So yun lang. Maraming salamat.
We are all inspired by your encouraging words, Miss Pauline de Guzman. Now, let us hear the message from Miss Anne Barras.
Thank you, everyone. From my perspective, I would like to say that we have seen a great deal of violence against women and girls around the world, and not just in Philippines, but globally. And the message we would like to send is that to all women and girls experiencing any form of violence, that it is not your fault, and that it's important that together we stand up against violence against women and girls, and that we address the underlying issues that that lead to violence against women and girls, and that together we can create a huge, powerful voice against these actions, and that we must stand up and speak out and seek justice.
It is very evident that our voice can raise awareness and empower every girl in the world. Truly, we can contribute in ending VAWG.
Right, Princess. Now, at this point, we will read some of the questions from our girls. And this question is for Miss Anne Barras from Cadet Girl Scout Olivia Sabado, Tarlac Council, Central Luzon Region. How important women empowerment is?
I would say hugely important. We're 50% of the world. And if 50% of the world is suffering because of violence, they're unable to achieve their full potential, women and girls are not able to live their life to the fullest, then that to me is a huge, huge problem and a huge loss for our societies and our communities.
The
For
next question is from Cadet Girl Scout Frida Marie Humalon from Manila Council and Central Luzon Region. To Miss Pauline de Guzman, now that access to support centers are limited due to COVID-19, how can we aid victims of abuse?
Napakagandang tanong and very relevant in our current situation. So, first of all, siguro yung message ko doon sa mga girls and young women na nakakaranas ng violence, not just online but also at home. Ang message ko is to be strong and to believe that there are other people who can support you. So always seek for support from your fellow girls and young women. So, nandito naman ang inyong mga kaibigan para masuportahan kayo at matulungan kayo sa inyong pinagdadaanan. Don't be afraid na hindi kayo papakinggan ng ating mga kababaihan or ng mga kasama ninyo sa community. So be strong. And para doon sa concern natin na currently we have a problem with the justice mechanism because of the COVID-19 lockdown. My main suggestion is to seek help from your friends and those who are friends with someone who parang naka-experience ng violence, also help them. And naniniwala ako na we can always seek support from our adults and from the communities where we are at. So, thank you.
Also from Cadet Girl Scout Frida Marie Humalon, this is for Miss Amber. How can we provide safe spaces for victims so that they will be able to report the cases of abuse without fear?
I think one of the things that are essential is for victims to know that they are not at fault for what has happened to them. And it's hugely important that we focus on where the blame should be, and that is with the perpetrator. I think very often in our societies, we're very quick to say to women and girls, oh, but you shouldn't have done this, or why were you there late at night? Why did you go by yourself? What were you doing? What were you wearing? These are hugely harmful things to say to women and girls who've experienced any form of violence. And what it ends up doing is giving the perpetrator a way out. It tells the perpetrator that they can do whatever they want with impunity and there will be no consequences. And when we do this, we devalue the experiences of women and girls and we give more power to the perpetrator. So I think it's hugely important for women and girls to know that they are supported, that they have a network with them that will stand by them.
Let us now proceed to the next question from Miss Joy Marie Carillo from Mandaluyong Council and Central Luzon Region. This question is for Miss Pauline de Guzman. What is your message to our girls who is afraid to stand up and speak up for their rights?
My message is to look inside you and hold on to that something that give you strength as a girl, as a young woman. So always believe in yourself and always believe that you have friends and allies na kasama mo sa laban mo for gender equality.
Thank you. Now, let us proceed for our last question for the both of our panelists. What has helped you to get to where you are now, and what advice would you have for others who want to set off in a similar direction? Let us hear from Ms. Anne Barras.
Thank you. I guess for me and my journey, which has been focusing on violence against women and girls around the world, I think I was in a position where I felt that the amount of injustice was something that I couldn't not say or do anything about. It's the amount of violence against women and girls that we see globally is a great pandemic. I know we have COVID right now, but prior to COVID, we had violence against women and girls, and it hasn't gone away. I think when you're passionate about something, it's important to speak out and do something about it. And so I would encourage anyone who feels strongly about any issues, whether it's any other form of human rights abuses, to learn what they can about it, to volunteer and gain experience, and then work towards achieving that goal and speaking out.
For me, so my experience and journey as an advocate, it's actually very difficult. I've experienced and witnessed a lot of gender-based violences as well, close to home, and I had in the past, I had a difficulty in overcoming these situations and problems. But sa akin kasi nag-work yung when I'm with other people also advocating for the end of gender-based violence. I feel stronger and more inspired to reach and achieve yung goal natin for gender equality. So my message to all girls and young women is to join together hand in hand in fighting gender-based violence, because together we are stronger. Thank you.
So that's it for our question and answer session. We hope that everything is now clear and concise. Thank you for participating in this portion of the program.
Now, may we call on our National Executive Director, Mrs. Maria Dolores T. Santiago, for the awarding of certificates to our panelists.
Can we show on the screen the copy of the certificate? While you are preparing to show the certificate, I'd like to congratulate Amber and Pauline for a very insightful sharing this afternoon, and of course for your time and effort to join us in this webinar. Very much appreciated by the Girl Scouts of the Philippines.
Ma'am Beng, for inviting Plan International, and to Miss Amber.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to speak with you all and inviting us along.
Yeah, sure. Shara, are we sharing on the screen copy of the certificate of appreciation? Okay.
Here's the copy na po, tita. Thank you po.
Okay. So, Girl Scouts of the Philippines Certificate of Appreciation is presented to Maricor Pauline de Guzman, Campaign and Advocacy Specialist, Plan International Philippines, for having served as resource speaker in the webinar Women Empower Talk, Stand Up, Speak Out at GSP at 18 November Voice Out campaign in observance of the 18-day campaign to end violence against women and girls, virtually held on December 12, 2020, given this 12th day of December 2020, signed Josepina M. Parentela, National Program Committee Chairperson, yours truly, and our National President, Susan R. Locsin. Thank you very much, Pauline.
Much din po, Ma'am Beng, and to everyone in the Girl Scouts of the Philippines. It's such an honor for me. Thank you.
And for Ms. Amber Ras, the same certificate of appreciation is presented to Amber T. Ras, Campaign Manager, WAGs Together We Rise, for having served as resource person in the webinar Women Empower Talk, Stand Up, Speak Out at GSP at 80, November Voice Out campaign, in observance of the 18-day campaign to end violence against women and girls, virtually held on 12 December 2020, given this 12th day of December 2020 by the same signatories. Thank you very much, Anwer.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone at Girl Scouts of Philippines for the warm welcome we've been given at WAGs and for taking the opportunity to take part in this program. And I also want to say a huge thank you to all the young women who've been involved in the 18 Days campaign and in putting together this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Maria Dolores P. Santiago. At this moment, let us have Cadet Girl Scout Olivia Sabado, Regional Content Lead, for the announcement of our last activity, the Pledge activity.
Good day, everyone. Good day, girls. As our call to action for this event, a pledge activity will be released. This shall serve as one of the required activities in order for you to get your electronic certificate. The participants shall take a 30-second to 1-minute video of themselves discussing their reflection on EmpowerTalk and asserting their pledge on ending violence against women and girls. We are looking forward to watch your videos on the comment section of the accomplishment report. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Cadet Girl Scout Olivia. To formally close our program, let us have National Program Chairperson, Dr. Josefina M. Parentela.
Thank you very much, Princess. To our National President, Mrs. Susan Locsin, our National Executive Director, Mrs. Dolores Santiago, our guests and resource persons, our friends from the WAGs World Bureau, Campaign Manager Together We Rise, Ms. Amber Ras, Program Specialist, Ms. Pauline de Guzman of Plan International, to all the girls and leaders who organized this event, our country manager, Dr. Saiki Socaldito, and to all the girls and adult participants from all the councils of the GSP, the staff and committees, a blessed and wonderful afternoon to all of you. Today, we are closing the Together We Rise 18-day campaign to eliminate the violence against women and girls, or simply called VAWG. I hope that you have been provided more opportunities to explore, understand, and appreciate deeply on how gender-based violence can be addressed, reported, lessened, if not totally eliminated. After all the webinars and activities, the campaign continues in ourselves, in our homes, in our corners, in the neighborhood, among our friends, by cultivating a culture of peace instead of violence. We can continue the campaign by encouraging and inspiring others to speak out their rights. Let us continue to be aware of what is happening around us, so we become more competent and confident in becoming an agent of change. Let us spend more time doing the Girl Scout turns to others to make this world a better place to live in. And finally, let us spend some quality moments with our Creator. Thank you, everyone, for your participation in this program, and let your voices be heard. During this difficult time, let us look forward to the most exciting celebration of Christmas. Allow me to share the message I received from Dr. Go. When my arms cannot reach people who are close to my heart, I always hug them with my prayers. Merry Christmas, everyone, and God bless us all. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
And that's wrap up our EmpowerTalk. Stand up, speak out, November voice out. Hashtag count me in.
This has been Senior Girl Scout Princess Ivy Gabriel
and Cadet Girl Scout Shara Patria G. Pascual. We thank you for tuning with us today.
Together, let us advocate for a VAWG-free
community.